Welcome to our channel. Today, we will explore one of the mysteries that has been buzzing in the community. A key witness, Gene Hackman's neighbor, has finally spoken out and shared shocking information that could completely change the direction of the investigation. Stay tuned to uncover secret details, surprising discoveries, and a story full of suspicion about one of the most controversial events in recent times. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any upcoming videos. On February 26, 2025, the sky over Santa Fe, New Mexico, was shrouded in a cold gray hue. The distant mountains were obscured by the mist that covered Sunset Trail, where the mansion of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife, pianist Betsy Arakawa, stood. The house, once filled with warmth and lively conversations from neighbors and strolls through the garden, suddenly became eerily silent. The neighbors, who were used to Hackman's regular presence, began to sense that something was wrong. They no longer saw him walking down the familiar road every morning. Betsy's piano no longer echoed through the windy afternoons. Even their golden Labrador dog was no longer running around the yard as it used to. John Miller, who lived about 3 houses away from the Hackman residence, recalled, "Everything was unusually quiet. We hadn't seen them for several days. This isn't like them. They wouldn't just disappear without any notice." The people in the neighborhood knew that Hackman was very private, but he still maintained a routine. Every morning he would stop by a small nearby cafe, read the newspaper, and chat with the staff. But for the past week, his silver Jeep hadn't been parked outside the cafe, and calls from close friends went unanswered. At first, people thought maybe Hackman and his wife were just away on a trip, enjoying the peace and quiet as they often did. But as the days passed, the sense of unease only grew stronger. On the morning of February 26th, John Miller and his wife, Linda, decided to do something they rarely did: knock on the Hackman's door. They stood in front of the dark brown wooden door, rang the doorbell twice, but no one answered. Linda tried peering through the window, but it was pitch dark inside, with no lights or sounds. They turned around, trying to reassure themselves that Gene and Betsy might just be sleeping or away, but the unease inside them continued to grow. Finally, around 1:30 p.m., John called the Santa Fe police to request a welfare check. About 15 minutes later, 2 police cars arrived. The officers got out of their vehicles, observed the house for a moment, then rang the doorbell again, but still no one answered. One of the officers circled around to check the windows, but there was no sign of forced entry. Eventually, they decided to obtain a search warrant, and by 3 o'clock p.m., the police officially broke down the door. Immediately, a damp and cold atmosphere poured out from the large house. Everything was in place, as if time had stopped. Unwashed teacups sat on the table, and a book lay open on the sofa as if someone had just finished reading it. But what sent a chill through the officers was the absolute silence. There were no barking dogs, no footsteps, no signs of life. They split up to check each room, and then one officer shouted, "We found something in the bathroom." The body of Betsy Arakawa was found motionless. The police quickly determined there were no signs of violence or struggle. Her bedroom was tidy, with no evidence of panic or resistance. Not far from the bathroom was the master bedroom, where Gene Hackman was also found in a similar state. On the bedside table was an old photograph of him and his wife, placed neatly as a lingering memory. Their loyal dog, their companion for many years, lay at the foot of the bed as if it had never left. The officers looked at each other, speechless. The silence enveloped them, much like the atmosphere in the house. In recent days, The big question has been, why didn't anyone call the police sooner? Although Gene and Betsy had been missing for several days, why was it only on February 26th that someone finally called the police? Some neighbors admitted they felt something was off, but no one dared to act. They didn't want to invade the couple's privacy, especially since Gene Hackman was known for not wanting to be disturbed. "We thought they were just away, didn't want to make too much of it," another neighbor, Susan Taylor, said with a lump in her throat. But when everything came to light, everyone felt regretful. Could they have done something sooner? If someone had called the police earlier, would things have turned out differently? The news of Gene Hackman's death quickly spread across the United States and the world. Fans expressed their sorrow as they remembered his legendary roles in The French Connection, Unforgiven, Superman, and more. Many close to Gene were also shocked. A former colleague shared, "Gene was one of the greatest, not just as an actor but as a wonderful human being. It's truly heartbreaking." That evening, the Santa Fe police held a press conference confirming that there were no signs of violence and that the investigation was still ongoing. However, one big question remained unanswered. What really happened in that house? And is there something we don't know? The story is far from over, and the answers may lie in further revelations from Gene Hackman's neighbors. If you found this story intriguing and want to stay updated on the latest developments, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons right now. Share this video with your friends so they can explore the mysteries surrounding Gene Hackman and these shocking revelations. To make sure you don't miss any updates, be sure to turn on notifications and leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on these unexpected twists. Let's uncover these mysteries together. Life in the quiet neighborhood on Old Sunset Trail was always peaceful. But now, as the small details come together, Gene Hackman's neighbors are beginning to realize that there were many signs of something unusual before. 4 signs that no one really paid attention to until it was too late. On February 12, 2025, a call came through to Betsy Arakawa's phone late in the afternoon. According to telecommunication records, the call lasted exactly 47 seconds before it was disconnected. No one knows who made the call, and more importantly, no one on the other end of the line responded. Strangely, according to a source from the investigation, that call wasn't from anyone in Betsy's usual contact list. Not a friend, not a family member, and no one that the police could easily identify. A close friend of Betsy, Linda Carter, recalled that she texted Betsy that day to check in, but never received a reply. That wasn't like her. She always replied, even if it was just a short message. I thought maybe Betsy was busy or resting, but looking back now, I can't help but feel something was wrong. If Betsy really received that call, why didn't she respond to anyone afterward? Gene Hackman's neighbors can't quite remember the last time they saw him. Some people recall it being on February 10th, when he drove home after stopping by a grocery store, while others think they may have seen his figure through a window on February 11th or 12th. However, from that point on, no one is certain about anything anymore. The only thing they clearly remember is a strange detail: the lights in the house. John Miller, who called the police on February 26th, recalled, "We saw the lights flickering. It wasn't normal. It was like someone was turning them on and off randomly." Between February 14th and 17th, several neighbors noticed the lights in Hackman's house flickering at odd hours, sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning. Some even mentioned that once, the lights flickered continuously for several minutes, as if someone was trying to signal something. However, looking from the outside, no one saw any movement inside the house, no silhouettes behind the curtains, and no sounds coming from it. Everything seemed like a spooky play, where the lights were the only indication that something was happening, but no one knew exactly what it was. The Santa Fe police later checked Gene Hackman's phone data and discovered another strange detail. His phone was still receiving signals until February 17th. This meant that Hackman's phone was still operational, still able to receive calls and messages for 5 days after the mysterious call to Betsy. But oddly, no calls were answered, no messages were sent, and there were no signs that anyone had used the phone. A longtime friend of Gene Hackman, David Foster, called him on February 15th. The phone rang, but no one answered. I thought maybe he was just busy, but something felt off. Gene always called back, he always did. From February 18th onward, Hackman's phone was completely disconnected. This meant there were two possibilities. Either someone had turned off the phone, or the phone was no longer within a signal area. The biggest question is, what really happened in that house over the course of nearly 2 weeks? If Gene and Betsy had passed away before February 26th, why was Hackman's phone still active until February 17th? If someone was in the house between February 14th and 17th, who was turning the lights on and off? And if they needed help, why did no one hear anything? A chilling hypothesis has been suggested. Perhaps someone was in the house with them, or after they were gone. But if there was someone, who were they? And why were there no signs of violence or forced entry? The neighbors began asking questions they had never considered before. Some regretted not calling the police earlier, while others began to feel afraid, wondering if something truly sinister had happened in that house, and whether someone might still be hiding somewhere. As the police continued their investigation, they realized that each new clue made the case even stranger. Who was the person who called Betsy Arakawa on February 12th? Why did Hackman's phone remain active until February 17th, but no one answered? What was the meaning behind the flickering lights in the house? Who was the last person to truly see Hackman and Betsy? These questions remain unanswered, but as the police continue to examine every small detail, one thing is certain. The silence on Old Sunset Trail is no coincidence, and this mystery is far from over. The silence that had taken over Old Sunset Trail was no longer the only thing making residents uneasy. After the police released their preliminary investigation results, one neighbor finally broke the silence, and what they revealed made things even more chilling than before. On March 2, 2025, 5 days after the police discovered the bodies of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, an anonymous witness contacted the authorities. This person lived right next door to Hackman's house, just a few steps away, and they had something they had never told anyone before. I swear I heard someone inside that house on the night of February 17th. This confession immediately raised a series of new questions. February 17th, 5 days after the mysterious call to Betsy, and the last day, Hackman's phone was still active. What happened that night? The neighbor reported that around 1 a.m., while they were watching TV in the living room, a faint sound came through the window. At first, they thought it was just the usual creaks of an old house. But then they heard it again and again. Footsteps, not loud or hurried, but soft and slow, as if someone was moving cautiously inside Hackman's house. It wasn't Gene or Betsy, as they were always quiet at night, but this time it was different. The witness described the sound lasting for hours with occasional pauses, as if someone was standing still midway and then continuing to move. They couldn't see anyone through the window, but they were sure of one thing. Someone was inside the house. The police thoroughly checked Hackman's house, but found no signs of forced entry, no broken windows or damaged locks. So, if someone really was inside the house on the night of February 17th, how did they get in? A disturbing theory was proposed. That person may have been in the house from before. This would mean Hackman and Betsy might have let someone in, but then that person never left. Or perhaps someone entered without anyone noticing, hiding inside the house for days. But if someone was hiding in the house, why did they turn the lights on and off in the middle of the night? Why didn't they take any valuable items? And most importantly, what did they do in that house between February 12th and February 26th? Another big question arises. If they heard strange noises on the night of February 17th, why didn't the witness call the police right then? The witness remained silent for a long time before responding, "I didn't want to believe it, and honestly, I was scared." The truth is, even living in a quiet neighborhood, there was this vague fear creeping in during those nights. Since the lights started flickering oddly, since Gene and Betsy stopped appearing outside as usual, something was off, but we didn't want to think about the worst. If I had called the police earlier, maybe things would be different now. This regret wasn't just felt by the witness, but spread throughout the neighborhood. People realized they had overlooked the strange signs, not paying attention to small changes that might have signaled something far more terrifying. What worries the police the most is another possibility. If someone was in the house on the night of February 17th, they could have left before February 26th without anyone knowing. But who were they, and where did they go? Another chilling theory has emerged. What if that person is still somewhere nearby? The neighbors are becoming more uneasy than ever. Some people no longer feel safe sleeping alone, while others are installing additional security cameras, and everyone shares one common fear. If someone really was in the Hackman house that night, could they return? Instead of the case being resolved, it's becoming even more bizarre. The biggest question still remains unanswered. Who was in that house on the night of February 17th? The deeper the police dug into Gene Hackman's case, the more strange signs they uncovered. It seemed that someone or something had deliberately interfered with the technology systems in the Hackman house before everything fell silent. It wasn't just the mysterious disappearance of the two individuals, but also the erased evidence, altered data, and systems that suddenly malfunctioned with no reasonable explanation. Gene Hackman had a habit of wearing a personal smartwatch that tracked real-time health data. When the police examined the data from his watch, they discovered something strange. The watch recorded Hackman's heart rate as stable until around 11:47 p.m. on February 16th. However, just before the device permanently lost connection, it registered a series of irregular heartbeats. Specifically, around 11:30 p.m., Hackman's heart rate suddenly spiked from 68 beats per minute, his normal resting rate, to nearly 130 beats per minute, as if he were experiencing extreme stress or engaging in intense physical activity. A few minutes later, his heart rate dropped abnormally, fluctuating between 40 to 50 beats per minute before the signal was completely lost at 11:47 p.m. A crucial portion of the data from 10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. had been deleted or was unretrievable. What does this mean? There are two main hypotheses. The data was either corrupted or deleted by an external agent. Someone might have accessed the device and erased the most critical portion before the police arrived. The smartwatch had been removed before losing connection, possibly by Hackman himself or someone else. But if the data was deleted, who could have done it? And why would they choose to erase the most important time frame? Gene Hackman's house had a modern security camera system with at least 3 main cameras. one at the front door, one in the garage, and one in the backyard. These were smart devices capable of storing footage on the cloud, but there was a problem. The front door camera stopped working around 7:23 p.m. on February 16th, just a few hours before Hackman's heart rate recorded abnormal signs. The police checked the data and discovered that the camera had not recorded any footage after that time. There were no signs of hacking, but the system had automatically disconnected from the server. The backyard camera continued to operate but did not record any motion after 9 p.m. on the same day. So what does this mean? Did someone disable the front door camera before the incident? A technical malfunction is unlikely, as these cameras are regularly maintained. If someone did disable it, how and why would they have done so? And why was only the front door camera affected, while the backyard camera continued to operate for a few more hours? The question arises, did someone enter the house through the front door without wanting to be recorded? The most suspicious detail was revealed when the police checked Hackman's security system. The family owned an advanced security system directly connected to a private security company, but according to data from this company, Hackman's alarm system had been reconfigured around February 12th, which coincided with the time Betsy received the mysterious phone call. A local technician who had worked with the system revealed a shocking truth. "I don't know who did this, but someone changed the settings. The security logs were erased, and the sensitivity of the alerts was reduced. It's as if someone wanted to ensure the alarm wouldn't go off." No one in the Hackman family had requested this change, and there was no record of a technician coming to perform maintenance. Someone had accessed the system, altered the settings, and ensured that if anyone entered the house in the following days, the alarm would not sound. Looking at all these details, a terrifying picture begins to form. On February 12th, Betsy received an unidentified call. On February 16th, the front door security camera was disabled. That night, Hackman's heart rate showed abnormal signs before the device lost connection. The alarm system had been reconfigured a few days earlier, causing it to fail at a critical moment. Some data from Hackman's heart rate monitor was erased. None of this can be just a coincidence. Someone had planned ahead. Someone had entered the house and ensured no trace was left. But who were they, and what did they want? One thing is certain. They knew exactly what they were doing. As the police continued their investigation of Gene Hackman's mansion, an eerie, unsettling vibe filled the house. What they found didn't resemble the home of a Hollywood icon. Instead, it appeared to have been deserted for weeks. There were no signs of activity, except for 2 tired dogs. The kitchen was filled with rotting food, with some meals untouched, and no evidence that Hackman had eaten in the days leading up to his death. This raised a crucial question. Had he been drained of all energy before he passed away? The forensic report showed that Hackman hadn't eaten in days, with no food found in his stomach. This suggested that he was unable to care for himself in his final days without Arakawa's assistance. Hackman's advanced Alzheimer's disease likely left him disoriented, unable to remember how to call for help, prepare meals, or make sense of his environment. As time passed, the mansion gradually became a dangerous, inescapable trap for him. Another unsettling discovery was that the house's air conditioning system was completely turned off. During the scorching summer months in Santa Fe, temperatures inside the house could easily surpass 95 degrees to 35 degrees C. Without proper ventilation, the air grew thick and oxygen-starved. This oppressive environment may have contributed to Hackman slipping into a coma before he passed away. But why was the air conditioning turned off? Did Hackman forget to turn it on? Did Arakawa turn it off before leaving? Or was there something else at play? An unexplained reason behind it all? The police found no evidence of a power outage, indicating that the system was still functioning properly. Someone had deliberately turned off the air conditioning, but who and why? What unsettled the investigators even more was the lack of any signs of normal daily life. There were no new emails or messages on Hackman's phone, no visitors at the villa for weeks, and no grocery bills or food deliveries for over a month. It seemed as though Hackman had abandoned the villa, or perhaps he had lost the ability to maintain any semblance of normal life. The greatest mystery, however, lay in the basement. One of the officers stumbled upon an old wooden door that wasn't part of the original house's blueprints. Why was it there? When they opened the door, a spiral staircase led down into the darkness. A strange, pungent odor wafted up from below, sending chills down the investigators' spines. As they shone their flashlights down the staircase, a hidden tunnel came into view. What they found inside left them utterly stunned. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were once one of Hollywood's most iconic couples, known for their high-profile connections and widespread fan base. However, when they vanished from their own home, no one seemed to notice anything out of the ordinary. Why? Because they lived a life of extreme privacy. After retiring in 2004, Hackman completely withdrew from the spotlight, declining even rare interview opportunities. He and Arakawa embraced a quiet, private life, avoiding social media and seldom interacted with family or friends. Those who were close to them noted that Hackman had become more reclusive over time, even distancing himself from those nearest to him. Their neighbors, accustomed to their isolated lifestyle, never raised any alarms. With Hackman's estate nestled in a remote part of Santa Fe, his lack of public appearances didn't seem unusual, as he had kept this low-key lifestyle for years. The truth was first uncovered by a maintenance worker who was sent to check on the house after several days of unanswered calls. Upon entering the estate, he discovered that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's world had fallen into an eerie silence. Betsy Arakawa was found to have contracted the H virus, a dangerous disease transmitted through the feces or urine of rodents. However, what puzzled investigators was the absence of any signs of rodents in the house. Hackman himself was not infected by the virus. If there had been a source of contamination, why was Arakawa the only one affected? Some speculated that she might have contracted the virus during a recent trip, but credit card records revealed that she hadn't left Santa Fe for months before her death. Could someone have brought the virus into the house? And if so, why? These questions remain unanswered, with the presence of the H virus adding another layer to the already complex mystery surrounding Betsy Arakawa's death. Gene Hackman is widely regarded as one of Hollywood's greatest actors, with a career that spanned over 4 decades and featured iconic films such as Unforgiven, The French Connection, Superman, and The Royal Tenenbaums. However, after his retirement, he almost completely vanished from the public eye. He stopped attending award ceremonies, avoided events, and severed ties with most of his old friends. The life of a man who once stood at the height of fame has now been reduced to an empty mansion and years of solitude in his final days. When Hackman passed away, there were no loved ones by his side, no grand memorial, no heartfelt tributes from colleagues, just a quiet house, an unsolved mystery, and a cinematic legacy that will live on forever. People will remember Gene Hackman as one of the greatest actors of all time, with 2 Oscars and dozens of classic films, or as a man who spent his final years in isolation, leaving the world with no one knowing what truly happened. The truth is that Hackman's story serves as a reminder of the fragility of life. No matter how brightly you shine, in the end, the most important thing is having someone by your side when the spotlight fades. For Gene Hackman, that light dimmed in an empty house, but his legacy will endure forever. The story of Gene Hackman and the secrets hidden beneath his mansion is sure to make you reflect. These strange discoveries not only uncover the darker corners of a Hollywood legend's life, but also raise unresolved questions full of mystery. What do you think about these secrets? Could they change the way we view Hackman and his private life? Thank you all for watching today's video. The revelations from Gene Hackman's neighbors have opened up an entirely new direction in the investigation, and we will definitely be keeping track of the latest developments. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any updates on this case. See you in the next videos, and always remember, the truth is out there waiting to be discovered.